and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we were working on the Festival Buddy 2 plugin, specifically how it doesn't understand time zones and we want it to. So we implemented a time zone detection button. Today, I'm going to try to take the time zone offset that we detect with that button into account while calculating the reset time of the Harvestmath wheat mazes. And if we get far enough along, we'll even be starting to think about incorporating some daylight saving time detection as well. Anyway, that'll be an adventure. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions about LOTRO in general or LOTRO plugins more specifically. In the meantime, we are standing outside the wheat maze here in Wistmead. I'm going to actually step off the path. So we're next to the quest giver, Ermentrude Haybank, who has both Challenging Wheat and Cheat to the Wheat, which is what the wheat maze is all about. Okay, so we are working on a plugin, which is Lua scripting language code, and we are going to be using Visual Studio Code here today, as we have been recently quite a lot. There is a Lua extension for Visual Studio Code. I should probably update it at some time if it's not. And there's also a LOTRO API extension on top of that uses Lua, but also extends it with knowledge of LOTRO specific stuff. So that's what we're using today. And we're also using the source control UI fork from fork.dev. These are both free tools that are available to download. And it is telling us that we have a couple of changes to our working directory. Let's take a look at what those are. First of all, some to-do file changes. Warn if the maze will change sooner than the end of the maze quest. This was something that came up on Little Redhead's stream. Little Redhead was in the middle of running through the wheat maze when 10 a.m. server time hit, and the walls came down, new walls came up, active quest failed. And what a great question. Talyrion says, if it fits in your plans, could you explain to me the format Lua uses for matching strings? All those magic characters make me nuts. Yeah. So anyone who is familiar with software engineering / programming in general will recognize the concept of regular expressions. I say anyone. That is a normal part of a software engineering / programming curriculum. So regular expressions are a way of kind of doing meta matching against a text, saying I need it to match this pattern, not just these specific things. I'm not looking for the word the, but I am looking for a letter and then a number and then a space. Lua uses something that's sort of a step down from regular expressions that are called patterns. And I have a link for that I recommend. And this is the Lua Pattern Viewer. So, Lua Patterns Viewer. So, when in doubt, I go to this. And one of the reasons I really like it is it starts off with a pattern that includes most character classes that you should expect to see in Lua. Maybe not all of them. I haven't cross-checked it. But if I'm wondering, oh, what is a %A? Well, one of the things the Lua Pattern Viewer does is it explains step by step as you work through a pattern. And let's do something a little bit simpler. So what I have written here is a pattern that says I am looking for something between 0 and 9. So it's expecting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then the literal string hello, and then one of exclamation point, ampersand, or octothorpe. And if a string consists of that, for instance, if we had the string for hello octothorpe, that would match. Let's see.
It says you can't see the website.
Thank you. I forgot to switch that over. Thank you, Talyrion. I got so excited with the question, I just went off the rails there. So this is a Lua Patterns viewer, and what I was saying is when you first go to the Lua Patterns, you will see everything, all the possibilities, or at least most of the possibilities. And a simpler version of that is this pattern here. So Talyrion, if you are familiar with regular expressions, then this is going to be similar. It just has some slight differences in what is possible and how you might accomplish it. If you're not familiar with regular expressions, totally fine. We can do a very quick primer here as well. So a pattern, we are trying to tell it our expectations. So in this case, I want a digit, a cipher. I want the letter H, the letter E, the letter LLO, and then one of these things. This is sort of a simple pattern. And if you have 3 hello octothorpe, that would work. If you had 0 hello exclamation point, that would work. But if you had hello period, that would not work. We are missing both the cipher at the beginning, the number at the beginning, or digit, and we are also do not have a correct part of the final set as well. So that's one of the things that I like to do is if I'm trying to understand a string, for instance, let's take the waypoint plugin. Let's go ahead and install that real fast so I can lift some stuff. Waypoint. We'll add that in. Awesome. And then we're going to go ahead and open up a new window here. And we're going to go ahead and open folder, that's in documents, Lord of the Rings Online, plugins, Lunar Water. Thanks, Lunar. Great job with your stuff. And we want to come in here and we want to find out where those strings are. So we have some messages. It looks like part of the reason why I've done such a bad job localizing it is waypoint might not be localized. These LOC messages might not be localized, and they need to be. So if I'm taking one of these, I might go ahead and copy that and bring it into the pattern viewer and say, what does this mean? And it just steps through it. So it says we're looking for the letter R, and then we are looking for %D is a character class. It says I'm looking for a digit, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In the wider world of Unicode, this could be matching more interesting digits from expanded character sets. But in the world of LOTRO, we are expecting that's going to be 0 through 9. And the plus symbol says we are looking for one or more of these. The plus symbol and the star symbol are almost the same. The star will accept 0 of them, and the plus symbol accepts 1 of them. It's a non-zero chance I've switched those in my head while talking extemporaneously, but I'm pretty sure. So we are looking for R plus some number of digits, and then literally the characters LX, and then some stuff. Anytime you see stuff in parentheses, that's called a capture group, and that's a chunk of it that will be extracted out and returned as part of the matching. So if you did this matching, you're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things to come out of it. And we're expecting, we could naively maybe call them the R, the LX, the LY, the OX, the OY, the OZ, and the H. So anytime we have parentheses, we're doing a capture group, and that's spelled out here. So we're capturing some number of digits. We're capturing some number of digits, a positive number of digits, and then what's this? %period. Period is a special character in patterns and in regular expressions. It generally means, by itself, anything will match whatever. And we can see that right here. It matches any character. But if we want to specifically match a decimal point, a period, we have to escape it. And so we can see here, this is called an escaped character. What that really means is we're setting aside its special meaning, we're treating it as the literal period. Question mark. Question mark means, I believe, it is optional. And then here we are saying 0 or more additional numbers. And what does that mean for us? It means optionally there is a decimal point, and optionally there are numbers after that. This is a way of saying we're accepting a whole number, 1, or we're accepting a decimal number, 17.42. So we can go on, but we actually, now that we're seeing what this means, we can see that this repeats a lot. ly has this exact same bit inside of it. 1 or more digits, followed by optionally a period and some more digits. Here we see I is followed by some number of digits, some positive number of digits, but notice that we are not capturing it. We don't actually care which instance we're running on when we're doing a /loc parsing, so we don't capture it. We just say we're matching it, but we don't care what it was. Talyrion says, so the capture group will allow me to assign the value to a variable when matching the string. Yeah, let's take a look at what that looks like. Sorry, there's a lot of thump outside, and I was trying to parse whether that was like a firework or a truck hitting something. Fantastic. Okay, so this is the magic right here. The match function is a function that is available on strings, and you can also do a local text equals that. You can also do text.find. If you're not looking to extract these patterns, if you're just looking to say, does it, no, I may have that wrong. Text.find also takes a pattern. We're dealing with text with a string.match. So we're looking at the match function. We can see we are expecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 return values, and these correspond to the 7 capture groups that are defined in the pattern. So you have to set up your patterns with this in mind. If the match was successful, but it finds fewer than that number of things, then you just, let's say it found 3 capture groups in that match string, then these 3 variables will have something and the rest of these will be not set to anything. So in this case, we can see R, LX, LY, OX, OY, OZ, and H are being set to the results of message match. And we know that's just how Lua works. String match, if we go to that. Really? I would like to see... Sometimes the Lua documentation does not match what I was expecting it to be in my head, ironically in this case. Okay, so yeah, the match function here will return those capture groups. So we can assign them to our variables, in this case assigning them to local variables, and then we can do stuff to them. Now, because we know what the string was that we're parsing, or what it should look like, and we know what our pattern string is, we can expect that whatever came out of this R capture group, some number of digits, should be assignable as a number. So that's why this function says convert it to a number if possible. If not, R is going to be nil, but we know that if the capture group worked at all, it had to be a string of digits. So that's fine. Same thing with LX, LY, OX, OY, OZ, and H. We knew that that our pattern was defining these as digits, possible decimal point, and possibly more digits. And so all of these we can reasonably cast as numbers. So that's what we're just doing. We're defining, more simply, we are looking to take a message. Let's go ahead and copy this out. We're looking to take a message that looks like this and recognize if the string we're interested is embedded in there. So notice that we don't actually care about the first part of this. You are on Treebeard server at. Sometimes you do care about this. If you want to know what server the person is on, so you can say that you're on Treebeard server, you do care about parsing that out. And a more complete pattern for the /LOC output would definitely include that and would definitely return that as a capture. What server are you on? Maybe what server number are you on? Maybe that matters for some people. Not in this case, not for waypoint. Let's see what we do in the maze map. Let's see. Okay, so we can see in the maze map win, I did go for a little bit more granular detail. So in these messages, I said you are on whatever server. Now this complicates things because some servers have an extra designation. They're English role-playing, for instance. So these ballooned a little bit by doing that, and I'm not sure it was an improvement. But at the end of the day, this message is matching this text right here. Notice that it doesn't care about the game timestamp either. Matches this subsection. So we're not trying to match the entire line. We're just saying, can we find something that is R followed by a digit, LX followed by a number, possibly fractional, LY followed by a number, possibly fractional, I number, OX number, possibly fractional, OY number, possibly fractional, OZ number, possibly fractional, and H number, possibly fractional. And one thing about that is, just be aware your heading can disappear. That's what this one is taking into account. If you are facing perfectly north, you will not get a heading. So my heading is 2.8. If I go a little bit to the left, whoops, wrong button. My heading is, I'm perfectly aligned north-south now. My heading is 0. The game leads it. It's super frustrating. Why would they do that? But you have to be prepared for that to be missing. And in this case, that is what this pattern is doing right there. Oh, fantastic. Talyrion is trying to understand my attempt at matching some of the German strings. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. In this one right here, we can see we are matching the server number, and Talyrion pointing out that is probably a bug because that is going to go into that first variable that we assigned the match to instead of the actual thing we care about, which is R, and everything is going to be kind of shifted one step in the variables, probably resulting in a gibberish output. So great catch there, Talyrion. Thank you for pointing that out. Talyrion says it is in brackets, so they have to be escaped. Talyrion, why don't, if you're comfortable with it, go ahead and copy your /LOC or the German equivalent output into chat here, and we'll take a look at it together. And I'll make sure that. Oh, hey, there it is. Haha. It may actually look something like this. But I love collecting these things so I can better understand the needs of things. Okay, that actually looks really similar. Fantastic. Cool. So we are looking, if we're looking to match this, quotes are also, they're a special character in Lua, so we have to escape them. And the brackets themselves are special characters because that's how we form the... Here, let me go ahead and open up a new window. Nope. Patterns here. So if I wanted to say, I want to match digits 0 through 5 and then digits 6 through 9. So for instance, the number 17, 17, that would match. The number 71 would not. So in a pattern, a square bracket has a special meaning. So if we want to match against a literal square bracket, we have to escape it. So in this case, we're looking for a literal square bracket And then we've done something weird here because this range is no longer within a square bracket. So we'll just replace that. So now we're looking for a literal square bracket and then a digit between 0 and 5, and then a literal square bracket and then a digit between 6 and 9. So for that, we could expect something like 3 and then 7. This would match. This would be fine. But 7, 3 would not. Those numbers aren't in those ranges there. And then, of course, if you did not have one of those square brackets, it wouldn't match either. So that's why in the code here, we have escaped that first bracket. We're saying we want literally a square bracket, DE square bracket, and then some number of letters. That's the name of the server. And then the end quote. And that matches DE, bracket DE, close bracket, Guai here. So let's go ahead and copy that into the pattern viewer. So we're looking for the literal characters. You set off them server start quote. Then we're looking for a literal open bracket, DE, literal close bracket, and then the space after the close bracket. And then some number of letters, 1 or more, because it's a plus. And then we're looking for that close quote and space. And then we're looking to capture some number of digits, 1 or more of them. So that's the decoding of how to read this. Regular expressions, and to whatever extent it applies, patterns are famously write once, read never. That is, you write one of these things and it makes sense while you're writing it, and you tweak it until it works, and then it's just in the code, and good luck if you ever need to change it, because it's rough. Agartha has an interesting point, pointing out that dashes don't have a special meaning except within square brackets. Did I escape that? No, we stopped trying to match. But if we were trying to match it, that's a good point. So if we come on back here and we say we want to match this, L dash. Lua pattern seems to think that that is a thing that can be a thing. So I guess my default would be to escape it when necessary. Okay, and then Talyrion asks, does the double quote have to be escaped in Lua as well? No. In the source code, we are escaping it here because it means something in Lua. By the time the Lua pattern matching sees this, it no longer sees an escaped quote. It is just seeing a quote. In fact, here, because we are inside single quotes, we might not need it at all. I am very used to writing strings in double quotes, though, and within a double quote, you do need this is mandatory. There you would need that, but you don't. This is not. You don't need it for the single quotes. But I come from a body of language that tends to be more rigid in how you do strings like this. For the scripting languages that allow you to choose your start and end quotes like this, then you can say this is not mandatory. This is. So here, because we started and ended with single quotes, any embedded single quotes need to be escaped. Here, because we started with double quotes, thank you. Here, because we started with double quotes, any double quotes within have to be escaped, but single quotes do not. So if you're doing a fair amount of double quotes within your pattern, yeah, take advantage of the fact that you can swap your beginning and ending of a string quotes, do single quotes there, and then you don't need to escape the double quotes within. But I do not believe it is an error to escape them. This is optional. I think this is still fine. Lua will understand that that means a literal double quote. I think. I have to double check. So that's something that's worth playing around with to see, oh, what's the behavior here. But I'm so used to languages that don't have that as an option. You always start and end with double quotes, and if you need to escape quotes within, you either do a special type of string or you escape them. So I would have almost certainly escaped those double quotes instinctively without even thinking about it. Because, yeah, in most languages that I use, that's not a thing. And this one it is. So that's what's going on there, is just pay attention to your starting and ending quote style and escape anything that matches that within. And thank you, Perk in chat, for pointing out that on the fly I had a typo in mandatory. Okay, Talyrion, do you feel like you have a better understanding of what this gibberish is now than maybe 20 minutes ago? Okay, and we're going to go ahead and get that in there. Alright, and I'm just going to review chat, make sure I didn't miss anything too much. Okay. Yo says, hey, I'll translate what you just described at the beginning into dev speak. Today we're re-implementing a part of the date library that every language should have in a Lua plugin. I suppose that is a question. I assume the Lua does not have a library of when time zones change for daylight saving time, because that is a mess, and the one baked into LOTRO would probably, at this point, no longer have valid information. But I did not actually check. It continues, this is always fun, never messy, and developers enjoy re-implementing date and time functions a lot. / sarcasm. Totally get it. Agatha says, I read in the Lua documentation the reason they didn't incorporate a full regex state machine is that the code to do that would be would be larger than the entire size of the Lua interpreter. Yeah, absolutely. There are reasons for why they have a scaled down version, and I think if you can do something with a regex, that's great, or a pattern in this case, if it solves the problem you're trying to do, but chances are there was probably another way to do it. This is just, for some people, this is an elegant way to solve the problem, because you pass off all the work of chunking this up and looking for these things into a system, and once everyone knows the system pretty well, this is a pretty straightforward way of expressing what you're trying to do. There are other ways to do it, and there are more complicated ways to do it. There are ways to do it that move the complexity into the code instead of into the library. But if you are not already familiar with regular expressions and with Lua's version of that patterns, it's definitely worth becoming so, just so you're aware of where regular expressions are a useful tool. And this kind of thing is a pretty good example of it. When you have a message that you know is formulaic, and the only things that are changing are the things that you actually care about and want to extract out of that, then that might be a good place for a regular expression, where you can match against all the stuff that doesn't change, and collect those things that are variable into your variables so you can do something meaningful with them. Agatha says, on the other hand, Lua patterns implement things that are not typically found in regex libraries, for instance, frontier patterns. And off the top of my head, I don't actually know what that's referring to, so I'm going to do a quick search. Frontier pattern. The frontier expression pattern %f allows matching the transition. Oh, yes. That's pretty neat. So marking the transition between one class and another class of characters. That is interesting. I'll have to tuck that away in my brain nugget as a thing that is possible. Cool. Okay. Agartha, awesome. Thank you so much. Agartha says, I just tested with a command line Lua interpreter, and it does appear that dashes need to be escaped, even when not in a character set, in the square brackets. I think this is another difference between patterns and regexes. I gotta say, anything that makes things more consistent feels like a win. And if you just say, this is always a special character, and if you need it to be literal, you have to escape it, that feels easier both to learn and probably to program against than, depending on where you are in the pattern and what your context is, this needs to be escaped. In order to understand whether this is valid, we have to first parse the text it's in to understand the meaning of everything around it. Feels like a more complicated thing than just to say, it's a dash, it's a special character. So I could see, if that was why they made that change from regular expressions, I could totally get it. Especially because it's possible it actually does mean something. Lua pattern viewer, 1 to 3, thought this was a lazy 0 or more. Allows the pattern to match 0 or more times shortest sequences. So this seems like an alternative to the star, which is a greedy quantifier. So this is one matches the character literal 0 or more times with a lazy, which will match the shortest sequence, and then 3 comma matches literally, and then 0 or more 5s glomming onto as much as possible. I gotta say, off the top of my head, I can't think of where I would want to use the hyphen, but it's nice to know that it's an option, because sometimes you don't want a greedy operator. So again, a nice thing to have in your toolkit to know in those cases where I want to match, but I don't want it to consume the rest of the string. Actually, a thing that comes off to mind right away is, a common-ish thing to do is dot star. That is to say, we will match anything and we will take as many of them as we can. And when you do that with the star quantifier, you are asking to match as much as possible. So naively, this will match the rest of the string until you have more discriminators on it. So if you have, the literal 7 and the literal 8, then this will take as much as possible between them. So if you had the text 7 is much bigger than 8, but 8 is pretty nice. Yeah, we'll even make it right. Much smaller than 8, but 8 is pretty nice. So if you did this, you might naively think, okay, we're going to match 7 to 8. But dot star is greedy. It'll take as much as possible, and so you'll actually go to the second 8, because that's definitionally what star does. It takes as much as possible. So if you wanted it to do smaller, then, okay, now we know that there's an alternative. If we do dot dash, then we are taking as few as possible to make the match. And so then we would stop at the first 8, presumably. This is off the top of my head. It deserves some testing. So Agartha, I think that's what's going on here, is outside of a range, we are treating it as a variant on star, but not greedy. And inside of a square brackets, it's going to be a range operator. Neat. If I knew about the dash as a alternative to asterisk, I had forgotten about it, so awesome. Thanks very much, Talyrion/Agartha, for the inspiration to look into that. Okay, Talyrion thinks this has been helpful, but parsing still goes wrong. We'll check the pattern viewer. Yeah, when I'm working with regular expressions, there are regular expression viewers out there that will let you say, okay, here's the pattern, and here's the string. Tell me does it match or not? And I thought I had one of those for a while for Lua, and then it stopped working. I'd have to double check on that. No, that's not it. Yeah. So for regular expressions, yeah, if we did 7 dot star 8, then we could come in here with that string that we were talking about and say, okay, what's going on with this? And my goodness, I don't think Dark Reader is working here. Okay, so like I said, 7 is much smaller than 8, but 8 is pretty nice. Now, I don't know if regular expressions has that hyphen thing. It doesn't seem to. So that would be actually a question that I would like answered. Regular expression star but not greedy. I can't remember. I guess lazy. Haha. Question mark. Awesome. No. Agatha says question marks. Now I just need to know what I'm doing. Aha! Okay, you modify the star. Cool. So here we've made it a lazy operator, so it takes as little as it can. 7 is much smaller than 8. It doesn't go all the way. With the greedy operator, it does. Cool. So that's how you do it with the regular expression. With a pattern, as we've just seen, instead you replace it with a hyphen. But what I feel like I had once upon a time, but I've lost it, is a version of this, a visualizer of here's the pattern, here's what I'm testing, show me how it matches, show me the captures. So if we were to do this, and I wanted to capture that group, we can see the capture is much smaller than 8, but is the first capture group, and the whole match is the area highlighted in blue. Okay, so yeah, as far as regexes and patterns go, I am not an expert on either of them. I know enough to get by as we're seeing. So I tried to rely on tools that help visualize these things, help me make sense of them. Just like we're seeing with the Lua pattern viewer here. So that's why, as I said at the beginning, one of the things I really like when you come to the Lua pattern viewer is that it includes possibly every character class, every special symbol that you can use. We can see the frontier ones here in this starting, and that gives you an idea of, okay, what can I do? What is %A? What is %P? What is %1? Oh, that's right, because you can reference back to a previous capture group. All sorts of fun stuff. Okay, Talyrion says, still don't get it. I tried the viewer, and according to the viewer, it is correct, but using it on the real strings will do a no match at all. Hey, if you're up for it, toss both of them, the pattern and then the thing you're trying to match, into chat there, and we'll take a look at it. Because regular expressions, I feel like it's a community project. It's like raising a child, but it's understanding a regular expression, or a pattern in this case. It takes a village and all that. So yeah, feel free to toss them in. I'd love to get a sense of where something is going wrong, if something is going wrong. Okay, so we have a pattern. I'm going to go ahead and turn on a word wrap here. that's what it was. This one, but then it stopped working. Alas. Okay. Awesome. Okay, the first thing I wanted to see is, yep, so your /LOC string does not have an H in it. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have two variations of these, one with and one without the H. Or if we don't care about H, just stop. Just have the string only have this much. And again, if we don't care about the server, then it could start here, and maybe we should do that. I had visions of grandeur when I was bringing in these strings here, but I think it complicates things more than it needs to. It's useful if you need to know what server you're on for a reason, but right now that doesn't seem to be the case for Festival Buddy. And so I had ideas of testing out a more generic version of this code that could be lifted out into a library. Obviously, that didn't work. So, yeah, give it a try. Either just delete that H after that, or have two entries here, one with the H and one without. And we'll go ahead and mimic that here as well. And I had missed that there are actual parentheses here. So great job on escaping those so that they are literal parentheses instead of a capture group. You dodged that bullet there. And anything else? Cool. Okay. Now, if we don't care about H, and I think we don't. Okay, awesome. You have another example of H. And I assume it doesn't work, so let's go ahead and grab that. All right. While we wait for Talyrion to get that in there. Talyrion says talking is valuable. I just noticed all of my attempts to get the numbers, the pattern wanted an H. Yeah. Now, I don't know how the German client is. In the English client, if you are facing anywhere but directly north, then there is usually an H, though maybe in special areas. Let's go into the maze and see if that changes anything. Okay, so we can see H is there, and it's the only thing that's changing as I'm spinning around. But in the English client, it leads it if you are facing due north 0. Talyrion saying it's the same in German. Awesome. And somehow I just managed to be able to hit that 0 pretty regularly. So that's just a thing to be aware of. If I were able to wave a magic wand and change how the /LOC is output, I would try to make it much more consistent. I would not include things just because they happen to be 0. I don't think that's a useful optimization. In fact, you have to write more code to do that than to just put it in there, probably. So I feel like, yeah, wave a magic wand. If I could only get one thing and it had to be /LOC, just always have a consistent format as much as possible. Julian says waypoint just strips the message before the R to do the matching. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was saying. This would be simpler if I had just not done anything more complicated. I was thinking, yeah, it'd be neat to be able to support server messages, but I kind of just left it there. I didn't really dig into it. So waypoint, we can see waypoint has 8 different strings here, and because they don't care about the server, they can stop there. If you wanted to include the server, you have to include more. So that's where I might say, okay, no. Now, waypoint wants to be useful in general, and we know that. Oh, that's funny. I'm in a fellowship. We know that we're trying to use this specifically in the mazes and near the mazes. So if we do a /LOC right outside the maze and right inside the maze in each of the languages, that's actually enough for the maze map window. And we got to remember to do it in both locations. So that's a great thing. Do /LOC just outside and inside the wheat maze and the festival ground mazes in each language, and only worry about supporting those. Waypoint needs to be more generic, but we don't need that complexity here. Awesome. Cool. Okay, Talyrion, I am curious if you include the variance with H or just strip H off of your patterns, if you see success in this. And what I mean by success is if Festival Buddy 2 is loaded and we are in Harvestmath and we open up the map, that whenever you do a /LOC, oh, that's funny, that it works, that it puts an arrow on the map. However, we are actually seeing an issue here. Let me go ahead and make sure this is loaded recently. Great. I love reproducibility. Maze map window 355 attempting to perform arithmetic on a local, which is nil. Let's go take a look at that. That is 355. Let's assume that I had a partially saved change there. Nope. Okay, great. Still 355. I am looking at waypoint. Let's not do that. Awesome. So let's take a look. 355. There we go. What is west? Maze map coordinate corner coordinates west. Okay. What the heck does that mean? Our corner coordinates, we are setting up using the set corner coordinates. Great. Where's that? We can see that this is being set in, we can see that's in quest strings. Let's go take a look at that. Okay, so harvest map. We can see west is defined as a value here, but obviously it's not getting into here. And that's weird to me because this was working a week or two ago. So what we can do is come on into 325 and go ahead and spit out what we think this is. And we're going to use a dump function, so turbine.shell.writeLine, and we're going to go ahead and say corner coordinates and concatenate in the dumping of that, which is going to write it out in a human readable fashion. Okay, so we can see that is empty here. So it was never called, and now it's our job to figure out why not. So this should be called by maze map set corner coordinates. We're going to go ahead and come on into here. And we'll just set up some more stuff. Turbine.shell.writeLine setting up corner coordinates. I just want to see that it's happening. Okay, never did happen. And so that's certainly a question. So turbine.shell.writeLine, checking to see if we can set up corner coordinates. What's going on here? Like I said, I'm pretty sure this was working a week or two ago. Okay, map update quest. Ah, hilarious. It's because I didn't actually change the quest. And because we don't know about the tangle, which one to set it up as. So we need, if we're going to be setting things up, this corner coordinates. We need to document this. If corner coordinates is empty, then instead of processing /LOC, raise the maze number selector window. Or something. Or how do we know what map it is? It always defaults to 1. Okay, this is not what I wanted to deal with today, but or since we default to maze map 1, why aren't we populating the coordinates? Okay, so just out of curiosity, what maze are we on right now? So if I come in straight ahead, we can see that there's a wall, but there's always a wall straight ahead. So let's turn to the right. We can see wall left, wall straight ahead, empty right. That is valid for number 1, 4, or 5. Kind of wish there was a way to mark these as not valid. Let's take a look to the left. We can see it's open on all sides. Number 1 is open on all sides, and that is the only one. So we must be map number 1 today, which is great. And now /LOC works because we've loaded that. Fantastic. So, yeah, I don't think I'm going to worry about that right away, but that feels like a thing that we should do. So definitely on the to-do list. Okay, awesome. So the quest has been selected. Challenging wheat. We have the maze. Yeah, whenever you go to Harvestmath, it feels like we should do that. Because if we go to spring, then we have the hedge maze. Awesome. When we come back to Harvestmath, the changing of the festival drop down should trigger this. Cool. That's the thing. So yeah, come on in here, and when you do the /LOC, either because you got it to a shortcut like I do here, or because you're just typing it in, which feels like it'd be a little bit too slow for me, but yeah, whatever works for you. Then you should see your arrow show up on the maze map. And the maze map will go ahead and fade it out after a few seconds because we want to show you that it is not trustworthy. It is a temporary location only. It's not live updates unless you keep on pressing it. If you keep on pressing it, then we'll keep on refreshing that timeout time. All right, and we can see the maze is agreeing with the map, and so it is almost certainly currently maze 1 over here on Treebeard. Awesome. Now, if you're willing to click that over and over and over, you are going to be able to navigate the map essentially without being being able to see what's going on here. You could just use your position in the map to navigate through here. Maybe that spoils the maze for you, in which case, don't do that. But you could do that. Awesome. So, doing the /LOC just inside the maze, just outside the maze, facing north, not facing north. I gotta remember to do that. Either include versions where we face exactly north, 0 degrees, and not, or if we don't use height, then stop the pattern early. I like that idea. So, whoops, that's not the right window. This one. So for that, where do we use the height? Let's go ahead and find match. Height. Okay. Heading. Oh, we do use the heading because we want to show what direction you're facing. Awesome. And if we are facing directly north now, and so we can use that and just know that that means 0. All right, Talyrion says, what fixed the west bug, since you're getting it right now? The bug came from not selecting the quest. When I selected the chest, challenging wheat or cheat of the wheat, that initialized the 4 corners data structure. And that's sort of the happy path. You pick up the quest from the quest giver, and that activates the map. Let's see how that works. So we come over here. Let's assume I'm on the Great Ale Association over here. And we talk to here, challenging wheat, we pick it up, and we get this map. Awesome. So, come on in here. Awesome, you see an arrow on the German client. Does it seem to match where you are and how you move through the maze, like this? This is whether or not this is challenging wheat or not. This is cheat of the wheat right here, because you do not. I'm barely paying attention. I'm just clicking the where am I button and making sure the red arrow stays on the green line. So your mileage may vary, but for me, this is low effort mode right here. And this is one of the reasons why I like binding the /LOC to a shortcut key. Normally, with my other mouse, I can just tilt the mouse wheel to the left, and it activates this here, which is why it has a button, whatever, text on it. Unfortunately, that mouse was starting to have issues. I got a new mouse that is similar, but it doesn't do the mouse wheel tilting for whatever reason, probably to save money. And that's disappointing to me because I used the mouse wheel tilting left and right a lot. And I can do without it, but in the meantime, if I wanted to, let's get rid of that. I might very well go ahead and go to one of my alternate toolbars and just move this on down. Oh, I can't move that on down. I'd have to, oh no, I can. And then just switch to using the keyboard shortcut instead. And then it's super fast. Awesome. Talyrion says, it seems okay, we'll do a test run. Awesome. Yeah, I'm very glad to start getting this working in other languages as well, because I just think it's very handy to be able to do this. So cheat of the wheat, we accept it, we get the map, we come on in, and we're gonna do the same thing, right? And again, I'm gonna try to not even pay attention to the actual character. I'm just looking at the map. Whoops. Started doing something else for a second. No! Spent too long hitting that wall. Talyrion says, this is cheating the cheats. Absolutely. Okay, so that is my new plan. Is don't go overboard. Just solve the problem at hand and worry about other problems later. So we're going to simplify these patterns to capture just what we need. Not worry about the server name at this point. We do need the heading. Oh, I always want to call H the height, but that's the heading. We need that for where the arrow is pointing to. Awesome. Talyrion says it works. Okay, I'm going to try it one more time. Much better. With 2 whole seconds to spare. Very cool. So that's what's going on. And that's why we want to get this correct, because for those people who don't want the challenge of stumbling around a maze all by themselves, we want this to work in any language. All right, cheat of the week. I'm not going to bother with the other ones for right now. There are versions of the maps that try to show you where the gourds and the crows are, or the corvids, I should say. But in testing, it didn't seem like they were very reliable. It seems like these things can spawn in so many places that it wasn't really helpful to know where some of them are, but maybe not this time. So without doing a lot more research to kind of figure out where all of them could be, I just thought, okay, here's how to get through the map, and then, good luck. And this includes both of the main paths to get to the exit, and then you can just wander around however you want. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Talyrion, for asking about patterns. They're not always easy to understand, but hopefully they make a little bit more sense now than before, and hopefully we get this working in German, and also we have inspiration on how to simplify things down here. I am curious, how long does Harvestmath last this year? Never long enough. Harvestmath Festival. It lasts until late into the evening on the 4th. So basically through this Sunday, until server reset time, Sunday evening, early into Monday. So for those of us in Europe, we might be able to get on early and do some stuff, but that will count for the day of the 3rd. Okay. Talyrion says the slow version was also successful. Great. Okay, so we have these, and what I want to do is test on a couple different servers to make sure that we're not missing anything for that. So let me make that note as well. If we continue to parse server names, make sure each server is name in game matches the patterns. Better stop caring about the server name. Go back to a simpler pattern. Start at R and at after H. Okay, great. So, we're going to go ahead into our source control to do file changes. We're going to go ahead and put those in there. We have these right lines here. I'm going to remove them for right now because I do want to fix that, but it's not where my mind is right now. So, and I say remove, I'm going to comment those up so we can remember that it was on our mind. Great. But we do want better German patterns /LOC. We do want to save that off. We've got this, and we've got these two. And I want to double check what we've got here. We can see escaping those parentheses was an important part of this. Possibly the only part of this. So thanks, Talyrion, for that correction. And then, of course, a version without the heading. Perfect. Okay. So, what I have here was some musings, and that's in time functions. Let's go ahead and open that up. I had some musings that, in general, there tends to be a week or two overlap. A week or two transition time where the U.S. is transitioning away from daylight saving time and I have it backwards. Where Europe tends to be traveling, falling back from daylight saving time, and the United States has not yet. So during that week or two overlap, in this case, between 27 October and 3 November, the time zone offset is going to give an incorrect value. Now, this isn't going to work for edge cases, but if you are in general in a daylight saving time following section of Europe, Western Europe specifically, then probably we could say, if we think you are in that, if your time zone offset is somewhere between like 4 and 8, and if you are between these dates, then we should treat your time zone offset as being one less than it actually is. So, other thing we could do is pull up a map of daylight saving time parts of Europe and kind of get us narrowed down on that window of where we should be trying to do this logic. Now, of course, there are probably players playing Lord of the Rings Online from around the world, but this would specifically address those people on the continental Europe side of things, maybe even just Western Europe in general, who are definitely having this particular problem. If you are in a time zone that is too close to the United States, which would be -4-ish, maybe -3 for parts of Canada, to -10-ish, then you could be in the U.S., you could be in other countries that align north-south to that. So it's a little bit harder to tell. But if you're in +4 to +8 or so, you're definitely not in the United States. So you might be under European rules. So we could guess, basically. And we will either be correct or we'll be off by an hour. But I think in general that's fine. It's kind of the opposite of right now. We're definitely wrong. And there we might be wrong. So that feels like an improvement. Oh, Talyrion, awesome, thanks. Talyrion sent me some patterns via Discord. I will pull that up afterwards and incorporate those. Thanks so much for running those down. I appreciate that. Okay, so what a thought I had was, unless things change, and these are always subject to governmental whim and decree, these are the expected dates of transition for daylight saving time, the ending of daylight saving time going back to regular time. And we can take advantage of that in some way. In the meantime, we just need to get ourselves to take advantage of the time zone offset in general. But I think it would be nice to have an idea of this. The reason this is so vague is time zones are horrifically complicated, and in general, if you think you understand them, you probably are missing something. And I think I, in general, understand them, so I am probably missing something. So I don't want to do anything more than treat this as a heuristic, it'll probably get us pretty close to the answer, but it won't be too much worse than the current situation where we are definitely wrong. But I do not want to give the impression that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to time zones, and time in general when it comes to computers. Much more complicated than it has any right to be, perhaps, but we do our best. So, I made some notes here. These websites that I went to, timeanddate.com tends to be pretty good when it comes to matters of times and dates, which is good, given that's the domain that they're squatting on. And you can go to the /time/change/ country or region /city name to get a list going into the future of, say, the next 10 years of the expected transitions. And again, depending on the country you're talking about, these may be more guesses than realities. Hopefully, in this day and age, they've got these things planned out, but your mileage may vary. Okay, so what are we doing? We need to look at this functionality, and this is a good example. Get previous hour 10. It returns the previous 10 o'clock version of this structure. So we're getting an engine get date table, which has year, month, day, hour, minute, second, day of week, a day of year, and we're just winding time backwards to when the previous 10 o'clock happened. So, one of the things I want to do now is kind of remember it, because one of the trickiest things, at least for me as a programmer, is figuring out what code that I wrote more than a month ago is doing. Sometimes there's comments, which are good. Sometimes there aren't comments, which is frustrating. But just rereading code that I theoretically wrote at some point and figuring out what it does sometimes is the hardest part of all. What I want to do is actually find those uses of the word 10. That's going to be hopefully, let's find just the capital T10. That'll hopefully give us a sense. Okay, in the Harvestmath maze ID set ID, we get what time is it now, and this is a local now. And I think, what do we have? Previous 10, and we're recording that. Previous 10 was this. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, that was the end of that. Maze map get harvest maze ID. Wasn't I just looking at that? Maze map win, harvest math maze. Oh, this is the maze ID win. Okay, yeah. Why are there two different versions of the same code? Oh, it's not. It's okay. So get previous hour 10. Okay. We have the now. We have the previous 10. At what point did I start writing in Dutch? Why is this stored Tinor? I mean, that's weird. I do not remember doing that at all. Huh. All right. It's probably on VOD, so. Okay, so we default to maze number 1. If we do not have a previous 10, then we say, okay, it must be 1. And we have a note here that that's not ideal. Okay, so we want to know how many days forward are we from the start of the current maze cycle versus the other one, because it's always going to be modulo 5 that maze number. That's all great. What we really just need to do is make previous 10 local time instead of server time, and I think all of this just works. So, get previous hour 10. Returns the previous 10 o'clock version of this structure. Note. Converts server time to local time via and then offset time zone. Where did I put that? Could be in here. Zone. Oh, I put it right here. Great. Convert server time to local time using local time offset. Example. For Netherlands, this would be 16 most of the year, and 15 during DST and DST and overlap. Okay. So okay. So now we know that we want to do that and get previous hour 10. We want to do the two things. We want to take into account the offset. Actually, we want to go ahead and spit out the output of this thing wherever we're getting it, because we want to see what's going on here. Turbine.shell.writeLine, and we're in Harvestmath maze.id. Previous 10, and we'll go ahead and dump out previous 10. And we're going to go ahead and copy that to anywhere else we're calling this, which is just the two places. And what I want to do is get a sense of what that looks like. So we're going to go ahead and unload and reload. And we can see we're doing it a couple times. Why not? Day of the year. We're on day 303 now, I guess. Current day of year. EpochConverter.com says it's day 303. Great. Day of the week 3. If you start with Sunday, I guess. I don't know why anyone would do that. The Sunday is clearly part of the week end and not the week start, but I guess circles don't have an end. Hour 10. Perfect, except for the fact that we need that to be 15 right now, or 16 generally. Second 0, year 2024, month 10, day 29. Is DST false? Does IsDST work? I wish I knew whether IsDST worked normally. Because it does have access, a LOTRO client has access to the computer resources, and the computer probably does know. Not a lot of stuff online for LOTRO plugin IsDST. Okay. Hey, if anyone's watching in the US and wants to look at the IsDST structure of getDate, I wonder what happens if I do that locally. Okay, I've got some notes. But yeah, if anyone's watching in the US, wants to fire up their trusty LOTRO plugin somewhere and spit out the results of a getDate call, turbine.engine.getDate, and check if is DST is true for them. That could be interesting to play around with. However, I don't think it really solves the problem for us because we still need to know if we're in that overlap period. But I'm curious about that. Okay, so get previous hour 10. We need hour equals 10. Data hour equals 10. We need to adjust that. And this is where we could naively just add this. So let's be naive and let's see what that means. Previous 10. Didn't actually change anything. Fascinating. Okay, so we're doing a couple things. We are I think we need to be clever about this because what we really care about, and we're using the word 10 here all over the case, all over the place. I don't like that. So local maze reset hour equals 10, but what we really want is 10 plus that. Oh, I know why it didn't work. We didn't actually set that. Okay, so maze reset hour. We want to use that anywhere where we have been using 10. Intelligently, we don't want to, do that where we shouldn't. Okay, so given that, we can see the previous 10 is now listed as 15. Great. But I think I'm thinking about the daylight saving time, and I'm thinking that it would be neat if this detection here took into account the data that we're talking about here. So let's come on back to the options window and see what that would look like. Okay, so quick slot, we're doing a right. So we have the hour. Detect time zone. We can see offset hours here. But take into account plausible DST ending overlap. Now, starting overlap could also be a concern, but this really only matters at the moment for Harvestmath. That's why I keep on thinking about the ending, because Harvestmath and the end of daylight saving time tend to go hand in hand. Whereas I'm not thinking of anything time sensitive that's happening at the start of daylight saving time, but we could also try to take that into account as well. So local is probably Europe equals, and we'll initialize that as something. Local is probably DST overlap equals false. Local DST adjustment equals, and we're going to set that to 0, and then return offset hours, and we should actually spit that out. Offset hour, DST adjustment. And you know what? We could do all of those. But remember, concatenating a Boolean is kind of a no-go here, so we'll have to do a dump of that instead. Cool. So let's start with that, and we'll come on into the options and detect, and we can see offset hours 5 because we haven't done anything with them. Is probably Europe is false, is probably DST overlap false, DST adjustment great. Europe daylight savings time map. Who uses this? Okay, I have come across a Wikipedia article talking about summertime in Europe. Applied in most European countries apart from Iceland, Belarus, Turkey, and Russia. So I think it's reasonable to look at the blue and red zones here as something that we definitely want to be able to support. Yellow also makes sense. Let's go ahead and embiggen this. What's up with the green? Moscow time, Turkey time. I gotta say, Turkey time sounds pretty good. Okay, so we're definitely looking at give or take to +3. UTC +3. But we know that that is compared to UTC -4, -5. So yeah, 9 seems about right. So 4 to 9. So we have a offset hours. So equals offset hours is less than, is greater than 3. And offset hours is less than 10. We're going to start with that. All right. Coming into the options, hitting detect. Probably Europe is true. So I am probably in Europe. That's good to know. I will let Little Redhead know. Neat. Is probably overlap. And actually, this is code that we probably want to generalize a little bit. So we're probably going to be hoisting this out somewhere a little bit more centrally located, but we don't have to do that right away. So it's probably Europe. Now, these are magic numbers here, 3 and 10, and I'm not a fan of magic numbers. Local, let's go to timeanddate.com, United Kingdom DST. Show me more about this. Sure, you can have that. So DST goes from what time zones? Why are you not showing me the time zone? Sure, time zone, thank you. Okay, so we're going from 0 to 1. That's UTC. Great. And if I were to duplicate that and go to New York, time zone is either -5 or -4. Okay, let's write some stuff. Local. Hey, I forgot to even mention, but I have a Extra Life link here. I am not personally raising money for Extra Life, but I am supporting Little Redhead's drive to raise money for Extra Life, and I've got her widgets up on my screen right now. And we can see, though not necessarily an amount for Little Redhead, someone has donated money with love from Hobbit to Hobbit, Adam Antic. And you know what? I don't care if it's a donation specifically for Little Redhead. It's money for a children's hospital, and that deserves a Hobbit flip. Awesome. Thank you so much. I don't know if you're watching, but if you are, thank you from those of us here at LOTRO Stream. And yes, if anyone wants to donate money for Children's Hospital, in this case the Boston Children's Hospital, you can find a link there, or go to extra-life.org/team/Standing Stone Games if you want to support Standing Stone Games. You don't have to support Standing Stone Games. You can just donate. And if you do, be sure to fill in the survey so you can get cool LOTRO stuff for that. You can follow the link in chat, surveymonkey.com/r/2024 Extra Life Team SSG. You can also find details about that on LOTRO.com in the news section. So, awesome. Thank you very much for interrupting the stream by donating money to Children's Hospital. That's great. Do it as much as you can. Okay, so we have... Whoops, don't care about that. Local Eastern Standard Time offset equals -5. Local Eastern Daylight Time offset equals -4. Local UK minimum offset equals 0. And then the other end of the scale, we were seeing stuff in ochre. Eastern European time zone goes to +3. Local Eastern Europe maximum offset equals 3. So, what we're interested in local minimum Europe offset equals UK minimum offset of minus Eastern Daylight Time offset. And as we can see, that's going to be 0 minus -4, and that's going to get us our 4. And so what we want to do is just do greater than equal to minimum Europe offset. And we want to do the same math over here. Local maximum Europe offset equals. And I don't mean to specifically exclude Russia, Turkey from consideration. I'm just observing that the wiki page says that these places are harder to think about, and I'm not saying I will never think about them. I just don't want to think about them right now. It's also apparently Iceland, so Iceland, Belarus, Turkey, and Russia. Why are they green? Oh, they're different time zones. Okay. Yeah, so we're just going to go up through ochre on this and revisit if the need takes us. So the maximum offset is going to be the European maximum offset minus this one. And we can see that's 3 minus -5. That's going to be 8. So we could actually be less than or equal to the maximum offset there. Does that make sense? Eastern Europe is switching between 2 and 3. Moscow is 3. So we're going to miss Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia. What was the last Sunday in October? Neat. Okay, so we're going to call this pretty good, but if anyone's using this and it excludes them in some way that is inconvenient, let's talk and see if we can make it better. So we have is probably Europe, is the offset hours is between the minimum Europe offset and the maximum Europe offset. If it's between those, it's probably Europe. Now, of course, we know what that means. It also includes Africa, or large parts of it. And I don't know what the daylight saving rules are there. But this is a beginning. And since daylight saving is super complicated, I think the easiest thing to do is we'll probably add a checkbox that's like try to guess at daylight saving time. And if you want to opt out of this behavior, you'll just deselect that. And then you'll just hit the detect button and it'll just work. That is the goal anyway. Okay, so is probably DST overlap. This is going to be probably the hard part. He said about a thing that is impossible to get right. What we want to do is capture, be able to tell if we are in a date between these dates. Now, all of the starting ones are in the same month, which is super convenient. And I think it'll probably be easier to take advantage of the fact that we have the day of the year in our structure. Remember that day of the year is just a number between 1 and 366. And if we encode each of these as day of the year for that year, then and check ours, is ours between this and that. I'm going to be super lazy. I'm not going to try to calculate that. I'm going to see if there's a website that I can do that instead. Calculate, tell day of year from date. All right. Day of the year calculator. Let's play around with that. All right, so we're going to bring this over actually so we can squeeze this down. And what we want to do is we'll go ahead and go back to March 10, which is day 70. And then we're going to go forward to November 3, and that is 308. Awesome. And we just want to do that stepping forward in time through the years. So going forward, that is going to be March 9. I have clicked April. That's not going to give the correct answer. So March 9, 68, and November 2. Oops, that is 306. And we're just going to do that for the next couple of minutes. March 8, that is day 67. November 1st. Oh yeah, first Sunday. So that's date 305. March 14. November 7, 311, March 12, that's going to be date 72. And we are looking for November 5, first Sunday, okay. 310. And one more here of this set. 2029, that is the 11, second Sunday, day 70. November 4 gives us 308. So that's all of the days of the year for the United States. Then we just want to do something very similar for the Netherlands entries that I have here, which are representative of Western Europe, European Union. And I do notice that we are coming up on the end of my normal streaming time here. So while I finish this up and muse possibly on what else I'm going to do this week to try to finish this up before Harvestmath is done, not that that helps anyone who's looking to use it specifically, though we did talk about how to go into the code and change things so it could understand your local condition, or you can just go in and change the map number manually. But my goal is to get it out so that if not this Harvestmath, then definitely next Harvestmath, this is working more intelligently and giving people a better experience. Especially for German and French players who want to use the /LOC or their local variant and can't right now because it's a little broken. Okay, so how do I go back to today? Awesome. Let's come on back to March. March 31. Last Sunday, it looks like. So we're looking at day 90. That's the wrong year. We want that to be 2024. So it's actually 92. And then October 27, day 301. I'm going to try to resist the urge to do mental math here and figure these things out. Just let the computer tell me if it's wrong, but it's probably right. If I click on the right thing anyway. That's weird. Alright, number 89, moving forward to October. And that's October 26. March 29. Why is it doing that? Well, now I do worry if I've... Alright, well at least it's one less than the previous year. Okay. Yeah, it's always a little worrying when you click on 7 and you get 6, or in this case 9. It's like, what is wrong? The UI, the display of it, or something underlying? Okay, that is 298. Those are at least consistent. Going on to 2027. March 2027, we're looking for the 28th. Apparently it's just a March thing. This is day 87. Well, that makes sense. Moving on to October. We're going for the 31st. 304. And 26 March. I do sometimes wonder what a civilization would look like if they didn't really do the calendar system the same way. It just count the numbers through, and you have our divisions of first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. But what day is it today? 203. What day is it next week? 207. What's a week? What? Why are we doing base 7? Okay, March 26th. Oh, that's a leap year. Great. Okay. I was worried I was seeing inconsistent numbers, but we're not. I had some downtime once upon a time, and I made a more decimal-oriented clock system. But unfortunately, 10's not a very good number to divide a day into. Like an hour being the equivalent of 2.5 of our current hours is a little unwieldy. I guess you could do it. So yeah, you divide the 24 hours into 10, but it is convenient as humans to kind of divide your work up into chunks, as long as a lot of people are doing something like an 8-hour workday, and a lot of people get benefit from 8 plus or minus 2 hours of sleep. Dividing it into 10 makes it a little bit hard for that. Like, how do you divide your life into chunks? So it was like, okay, what if instead of 24 hours, it's 30 decimal hours, 10 hours in each of those chunks? What does that look like? And you can play around with that and do interesting things, but consensus is probably the most important part of any time system, and I think we're kind of stuck with what we've got now, short of something revolutionary. So I don't know that Earth is going anywhere with that. But if you had space exploration or something, then you could have a ship that was meaningfully different than a planet, and I think you could get away with that in isolation, and then they go colonize a planet and they take their decimal time with them or something. But anything more Earth centric is probably just a thought experiment. 28. Okay. Those numbers look pretty reasonable. I'd be willing to believe that there's an error in there, but I think they're all pretty close enough to the right number that we can deal with that. So includes day of year. So what we're looking at is if our day of year is between 2 a.m. if our day of year is between these two numbers and our time is after 2 a.m. until this number and before 2 a.m. on that number, then we are in the start overlap. And simultaneously over here, we're in the stop overlap. That's interesting. The U.S. clocks move backwards at 2 a.m. to 1 a.m.? Fascinating. I wonder why the Europe ones do it at 3, or why they are different. Or is that a notational thing? It's been too long since I've had to deal with the United States daylight saving time. I do not remember. Also, not a big deal. If we're off by an hour, we're off by an hour, but that does narrow the window of being wrong. Okay, so we have this. What we need is some way to incorporate this into tables. So we could imagine daylight saving time lookup equals a table, and in that table, we could imagine something. What are we looking for? I'm going to close those for a minute. So is probably DST overlap. What we want to do is toss the result of our time, so local date. We want to take the result of that engine get date table. Yeah. We want to take the result of that and pass it into a function function is DST overlap. Is DST start, stop, overlap. Spelling function correctly is a bonus. And we're going to get local date time. And we can identify, in fact, if we return false, we can go ahead and mark this up. And local date time is going to be a engine get date table. Engine get date table. Okay. Return value is a Boolean. Great. Returns a guess of whether or not we are currently between the times that one of US/Europe changes for DST and the other has not yet. Has changed. I am hearing that there's been another donation towards Extra Life. Skagosi, thank you so much for your generosity. I know that you sometimes are watching. If you are watching right now, here's a Hobbit Flipper 2 for you to thank you for your generosity in supporting children's health. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I know Little Redhead is also thanking you from across the room. Don't forget to fill out your survey. It doesn't have to be today, especially if you think you might donate more. Just keep a record of your donations and make sure you fill out your SurveyMonkey link to get your cool LOTRO associated thanks for your participation in Extra Life. Okay. Very cool. Thanks for interrupting with your generous contribution. That's amazing. We have a local date time, and we notice engine get date a table. And we're not interested if we are or not in daylight savings times. We're looking for this overlap. So, if local date time dot day of year is greater than something. And here's where I want to kind of spell this out. Local US DST start equals, and that's going to be something like 70. Replace with lookup. In fact, we'll do it for next year, 68. Local Europe start equals 89. Skigosi says, happy to make a small donation. Well, we're very glad that feels like a small donation to you and that you are participating in this. Thank you. I'm hearing... Oh, cool. There's also been a donation, I think not specifically here, but towards the SSG team in general for $20 US from Ngrill. Well, thanks so much. You may not be watching, but we're going to do a flip for you anyway. Awesome. So a US Europe DST start, US DST N stop. It's a personal choice, but if you are writing things like begin or start or end and stop, try to be consistent. I tend to pair them up with the letters. So if I do start in one end, I'll try to do stop at the other, and then if I do begin, I'll try to do end. But what I dislike doing is mix and matching, begin and stop or start and end. I try to be consistent. And for me, sticking with the letters together, start and stop, allows me to be internally consistent. Maybe not with anyone else in the code base, but that's my internal way of doing that. Awesome. Little Redhead says stream team member Norse Rucker is streaming right now, probably on their personal channel. So we might be getting a few folks encouraged too. Well, I certainly hope so, but regardless of the source of the donations, that's fantastic. So we're going to do a stop, and we're going to populate with DST stop of 306 and local Europe DST stop equals 299. Okay. And we're just going to go ahead and mark all of these to replace with lookup. Once we understand how we're using these numbers, hopefully that'll guide what this structure looks like for easy reference. In fact, I'm going to move this back over now that we're not looking at timeanddate.com or wherever that was. Okay, so what's this logic look like? If the day of year is greater than this and local date time day of year is less than this, then we are probably in the begin, what did I say, starts up, in the interstitial begin start time. Else, if local date time dot day of year is greater than Europe DST stop and local date time dot day of year is less than US DST stop, then we are probably in the interstitial stop time. And I say probably because we do have that issue of it doesn't happen at midnight. And actually, I love that it doesn't happen at midnight. Happening at midnight would be bad. It'd be terrible. So it's very good that in general it doesn't happen. It makes things much cleaner. But it means that if we are on day 299, it may not have happened yet if we are before a certain time. And it actually gets worse for the 1 hour period that we duplicate in fall. So in Europe, and I happened to be online for this and watch it happen. You got to celebrate the small things. But the clock would hit 3 o'clock, and it goes back to 2 o'clock. So between 2 and 3, you don't actually know if you are pre or post the time shift. What's a player to do? But that's as close as we can get without being able to interrogate the computer more closely. No, actually, we have the isDST. It would tell us which side of that we are on. Okay, cool. And then for the spring forward, it doesn't matter. We're actually going to skip from 2 to 3 o'clock. So you should never see a time of 2:23 in these instances. We just go from 2 to 3, bam. So we can distinguish that. And so we just need to care about whether we're before or after the shift on those end days. If, and in fact, we're going to be spelling day of year a lot. So local day of year equals local date time dot day of year. Cool. So if local day of year equals the US date start, then else if local day of year equals Europe DST start, then we'll be thinking about that. Else, if we're not in either of those, we are between them. Day 70, 71, 72, 88. All of these are firmly in the overlap category. It's just the edge cases that we care about. So, is DS start stop overlay? Then we would say return true. And we would like to return, let's see, what's up? Yeah, I know there's only one in the annotation. I'm going to fix that. We would like to return which direction we are going. So for instance, I want to pull up some examples. Hey, little one. Okay. Time zone. In the UK. Actually, you know what? I do better when I'm thinking about things in my own country. Okay. We are going between +1 and +2. In summertime, we are moving forward to +2, and wintertime, we are moving back to +1. And for any legislature type people out there, summertime and wintertime feels a lot more intuitive than daylight saving time versus standard time. Because I can never remember at which point we are trying to save the daylight. You would think in winter because there's less daylight and you want to save it, but that's wrong. It's not intuitive to me, and perhaps to others. Consider using wintertime and summertime to denote the times that you have during winter and summer. It'll just make everything easier. Except for the people who somehow believe it's causative and think that maybe we should be on summertime all the time so that there's more sun. Hopefully that's a very few number of people, though. Okay. So we are moving forward first here. So we have -1. It's always -1, isn't it? If there's an overlap, the Europe is always one closer to the US. Because this happens first, and then we go here, and then this ends first, and then we go here. Wait. Summertime goes from 2 to 1, so ending brings us 1 hour closer. Yes. Okay, it's always, if it is in that overlap, not overlay, if it's in the overlap time, really? Then we're always expecting a decrease of 1 hour. Okay, great. If true, then the offset between the US and Europe is -1 from normal. Cool. Okay. So we have a is DST start stop overlap, but we haven't parameterized these things. This is only good for 2025, which is certainly a year. But what we want to do is go ahead and have a lookup table. So what we're looking for is a saving time lookup of a year, 2025. Well, we'll start with 2024 equals, and then US equals, and in this case we can see 2024, that was 70. EU equals 92. Wow, really? Yeah. Why does that look wrong? Right, there's a leap year in there. Was this really a leap year? I don't remember this year at all. It was indeed. Cool. Okay, so there's 21 days plus the 1 from February should already be in there. There's 21 day difference. I wonder if that website was glitching out again. Sure. So calculate day of year from date. Oh, that's true. Excel can probably do this. What the heck was that? Equals today. Equals day of, no. Turns number of days between two dates based on a 360-day year? How is that a useful thing? Excel day of year. There's no built-in formula in Excel that does this. Well, it says a website with an unknown provenance. Oh, yeah, you can convert it into a number and then yeah, okay. So if that was if we get the year of this, we can see that that is the, 2024. Just walking through the tutorial that I found online. So if this is this minus that, and we format it as a number. Nope, just a number. That gives us a number of days since something. If we actually subtract a construction of a date, the first of that month, and then we add in one, then we get what we're looking for, which is the day of the year. Okay, awesome. Probably should have done this to begin with. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And we'll just go ahead and do these real fast. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then we're going from 10 to 9 to 8 to 14 to 12 to 11. It's almost like there's a pattern. And we see 70, 68, 67, 73, 72, 70. Awesome. And then we are going to come on over here with the other ones. 31, and we can see, yep, that was before I realized that website was having a glitch. And these are going to change around as well. 30, 29, 28, 26, and 25. We can see 89, 88, 87, 86, 84. Great. So the rest of these are probably okay, but since we have this, and since I'm not going to be keeping it for too long, we'll make the most of this spreadsheet. So for 11.3. And we're dropping down 2, 1, 7, 5, and 4. All right, 8, 6, 5, 11, 10, 8. We didn't see any glitches on the November side of things. It was just the March side of things for whatever reason. So I'm going to assume all of these are fine and just do a cursory check here. Doesn't like the year 202 for some reason. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. We just made one too many of those. And then finally 27, 26, 25, 31, 29, and 28. 301, 299, 298, 304, 3, and 1. Great. So, found that little glitch. And what we're looking for is 70, 91. And what that allows us to do, ideally, is we can use local. First of all, if local datetime.year, we're doing a lookup here. So daylight savings time lookup, if that of the year is nil, then return false. And we can't do anything more. We don't have the data to do a lookup. Assume not. Assume no overlap. Maybe by then we'll have fixed this and we'll have worldwide transitions and also no daylight saving time, and therefore everyone in the world will be doing the same thing, which is nothing. One can hope. I'm hearing the sounds of a donation. Rob has donated to the team amount. Thank you so much for doing that donation. Looks like about 65 money units, and that deserves a flip from me. Probably not watching this specific stream, but if you are, thank you so much for participating in Extra Life this year. Okay, so if we don't have it, great. If we do have it, by definition, we have it. So we can go ahead and do this lookup. And what we want is the year, and then we actually want two things. Start equals, and then we'll have... And so, oh, that's awesome. Zeco1 has donated 20 money units towards Little Redhead's Drive. If you are watching, and maybe you are, thank you so much. We're going to do a flip or two here to show our appreciation for you donating towards a children's hospital in Boston. That's fantastic. And we're going to go ahead and have the start and stop values as well. I'm just going to duplicate this entry here. And start and stop for US, that is 308, and for Europe, that is 301. So that's the general structure that looks like we can use for this. So we're going to do year. Well, I heard it activating again. I don't know if that's another donation from Zcool or if it's just doing something weird. I'm going to assume it's a second donation and do another flip because raising money for Children's Hospital is awesome. So thank you very much, whether or not that was another one or not. Don't forget to fill out your SurveyMonkey before the end of the Extra Life season. But you may want to wait. We are doing a all-day stream here on the LOTRO stream channel at twitch.tv on this Saturday, I believe, November 2nd. And it's going to be a fun time. There's going to be giveaways all day. I'm going to be helping out with that, as are some other people. I'm not going to be streaming during it. I can't say that Plugin Along's vibe really meshes well with Extra Life, though I could always stream other things. But I'm going to be there supporting streamers who are going to be having a good time all day. And so if you are donating at all on that day, you'll want to combine all of your donations into a single SurveyMonkey response. Okay, so we have start and we have US. And that's going to be the US DST start. And then we can do the same thing with the other ones, where we do this is the Europe one, so we want to have EU. To do, done. And then we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do the stop values, not the start values. So here, I have a feeling I selected more than I wanted to. We're going to go ahead and do US DST stop. Again, pairing start and stop together. and Europe stop. And then we'll go ahead and get rid of those to-dos. Okay, so we have parameterized this. If we are in that overlap, and we want to go ahead and do this. Okay. And stop. We're going to do special things for that. Otherwise, we're going to return true. And we can actually test this out right now because DST is already happened. So we are in that interstitial time and not on one of the end dates. So we can go ahead and call this function and actually see something. So is probably DST overlap equals is DST start stop overlap, and we're going to give it the local date. Okay, so we have is probably DST overlap false. Interesting. I would have thought that'd be true. Let's figure out what's up with that. Let's actually do some output. Turbine.shell.WriteLine. And I think debugging what's going on here is probably going to be the last thing we're going to do on stream here. So if you have any last minute questions, comments, concerns that you want to toss in the chat, or last minute donations that you want to toss towards Little Redhead or any member of the Standing Stone Games stream team, now's a great time to either start typing or open up your wallet. And we're going to go ahead and figure out what the values in this function are and why it's not doing what we thought it would do. And instead of doing concatenations, I'm just going to go ahead and do them all on different lines. Oh, for one thing, I didn't fill out this table. I need to do that. To do add other entries. Cool. I want to stop spinning up that previous 10, but I don't really want to. So, maybe I will anyway. Because it's being very noisy. Oh, right. That only happens right now when I hit the detect button. Of course. Okay. Oh, which means I didn't update the output. I was still looking at the old output. Awesome, but we can take a look at this. We have local day of year is 303. We can see the US date stop is 308. The Europe stop is 301. And we get a probably DST overlap of true. Fantastic. If we have a probably DST overlap, that means we can take advantage of it. Where were we? Okay. DST adjustment equals 0. If is probably DST overlap, then DST adjustment equals -1 end. And that is it. So we'll go ahead and bring this on in, hit the detect button. We can see the DST adjustment is -1, so the offset's going to be that plus DST adjustment. And detect time zone. Unless I mean to be +1. Let's see. Okay, and we can see the DST adjustment is 1, and that gives us +6. And if we were saying is probably DST overlap equals false. Just to override that there. Come on in, click this. We would say, we don't think we're in that overlap, therefore we think this is the real difference and we're at +5. However, we don't want that. So our goal here is to record the actual usual offset between the two time zones, regardless of whether or not we're in that interstitial time or not. And using these intervals, we can take a guess at whether or not that is the case. We're going to have to write some special code for the edge cases of on the date that it starts or stops, detecting whether or not we're before or after that 2 a.m. transition period. But for everything between those twos, we can just say, yes, we're definitely in this period, assuming the rules don't change, and therefore we need to add an hour to correct ourselves back to the true difference between them most of the time. Downside, we then need to do this same logic when we're figuring out whether 10 o'clock locally does or does not include that 1 hour shift. But if we can do it once, we can do it more than once. And so this logic is going to be, we're going to be calling this again when it's time to figure out what 10 a.m. means locally. Awesome. Well, this is great progress. My goal is to finish this up this week so that there is a version of Festival Buddy out there that works for Harvestmath and opens us up to proceeding into the Yule season in case there's anything we need to do for Yule. We're not still working on Harvestmath. So, awesome. If you have any comments on Festival Buddy, feel free to email them to me or message me on Discord or find me some way. Message me on Twitch. I might even see that because I'll be online Saturday. But otherwise, LOTROinterface.com is a great place to message people who write LOTRO plugins. Cool. I have so many windows open from all this looking up of time. Little Redhead's comment about Festival Buddy is that they're finding it super helpful, especially in the maze. Awesome. Yeah, I've been tempted to do something similar for the Haunted Burrow to give you a live update of where you are, but after I run the Haunted Burrow 5 or 20 times in a Harvestmath, it becomes pretty routine for me. And I feel like the mazes never get that level of, I know where I'm going, because I don't run them more than once per character per day. Whereas the Haunted Burrow, if I'm doing things right, I run it 10 times per character in a day if I'm in the Ganail Association on that character. Otherwise, 8 times. But still, it feels like there's a lot more learning that goes on for the Haunted Burrow. So it's never felt like as much of a priority to try to get a you are here, especially because you still need to understand the connections between the various locations. So, but cool. I'm glad, Little Redhead, you are finding it useful. And yes, the Haunted Burrow doesn't change. Awesome. Well, I think that is everything we are going to cover today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. And for those of you who were able to donate, thank you very much again for your generosity in supporting Children's Hospital this Extra Life season. I do hope to see you all here next week. And before then, I hope to see as many of you as possible sometime this Saturday for our all-day streaming here at twitch.tv/LOTROstream. It'll be a lot of fun with lots of giveaways. You must be present to win, though. So, hope to see you all here next week and on Saturday. Until then, keep plugging along. All right. Bye-bye now.